Welcome to video 4 in the online legal research series. In this final video, I will demonstrate searching for sources that help with interpreting the primary material. This includes journal articles that discuss and interpret cases and legislation. I will also demonstrate finding extrinsic information that assists with interpretation of legislation, namely explanatory memoranda and Hansard. From the library page in my SCU, navigate to the Legal Research Skills Guide by expanding Law and Legal Research Skills. I'll start by going to the Secondary Sources page. At the bottom of this page is a tutorial explaining how to update the law using secondary sources. This includes instructions for using another type of legal resource known as legislation annotators. I highly recommend completing this tutorial in your own time. Let's start by searching for journal articles that have cited legislation. I'll click the journal articles page on the left-hand side, and as with all pages in the guide, you will find instructions and screenshots for the major databases at the bottom of each page. I'll start by looking in Informat. Informat includes a number of Australian databases, including the Attorney General's Information Service, or AGIS, which contains dozens of Australian law journals. On the Informat homepage, click Advanced Search. I recommend using Advanced Search as it will be easier to structure your search. On this Advanced Search screen, you type each concept from your research topic onto a separate search line. So continuing the theme of the other videos, I am searching for articles discussing misleading and deceptive conduct under the Competition and Consumer Act. So on line 1, I'm typing Competition and Consumer Act. I've used double quotes around the Act name to ensure that is searched as an exact phrase. I can drop the field down on the right-hand side and choose Legislation. That will make sure references to the Act are only picked up in that specific field, and that will narrow my search. I can combine this with keywords, misleading or deceptive. By placing or in between the two alternative terms in capital letters, I've told the database to search for either of those terms. And on the left-hand side, both of these concepts are being combined with and. There are a number of other limits available from this search screen. However, I always recommend running a search before you apply too many limits. You don't want to narrow your search too much, as you won't know what you might have missed. On the results page, we can now review the results and decide whether to apply limits, such as peer-reviewed, to narrow my search to that high-quality scholarly literature, or perhaps a date range to look at more recent publications. Don't limit your search to full text. This is because if an article is not available in full text within Informat, you may still be able to get a copy of that article from a different database. The easiest way to find full text articles is to click the Find It links. These links run a search in the SCU Library catalogue, and if SCU holds the article or the journal in a different database, you should be taken through to view it. I'll click the Find It link here on this article from the Competition and Consumer Law News. So this journal is available from the Lexis Advanced database. And the Find It link took me straight through to the journal's homepage in Lexis Advance. From here, I could search for the article by title or browse to the volume and issue number I need. Sometimes Informat includes records for different types of sources, such as conference papers, books or book chapters, and reports. The Find It links for those sources might not work, so try searching the SCU catalogue directly. Or if it is a government or organisation report, try and search for the full text via Google. Let's look at noting up legislation in Westlaw AU. So I can use the legal databases to search for articles on a specific section of an Act. So as I have recommended previously, in Westlaw AU it is best to choose a source type before you run your search. This time I'm clicking Secondary Sources. And I'm then clicking Advanced at the top right of the screen to access the Advanced Search form. Remember, we use the Advanced Search as we can then search within specific fields. This time, I'm going to search for journal articles that cite Section 18 of the Australian Consumer Law. In the legislation cited title box, I've typed Competition and Consumer Act or Australian Consumer Law, and each of those phrases is enclosed in double quotes to ensure they are searched as an exact phrase. Remember, the Australian Consumer Law is located within Schedule 2 of the Competition and Consumer Act, and I'm not entirely sure whether articles will refer to the Competition and Consumer Act or to the Australian Consumer Law, so that is why I've included both. I can then type the provision 18 in the legislation cited provision box. When you are searching for specific references to sections, don't type S or section, just type the section number. I can narrow this search even further by including keywords, so I'll type in the all of these terms box, misleading, within 5 of deceptive. So again, /5 is called proximity searching, and it tells the database to search for these two terms within 5 words of each other. Now, there are many results, as this is an important section in the Act. So we can limit it further by using the filters on the left-hand side. For example, if I open up publication type, I can choose to only view law reviews and journals, and thereby exclude the results from the encyclopedia, the Laws of Australia, and also the legal commentary. By limiting to law reviews and journals, I also then get the option of limiting my results further by date. In Westlaw AU, you will sometimes see little labels that say out of plan for specific articles. That means that Southern Cross does not subscribe to that particular journal or commentary title, and you won't be able to view that article. Let's now look at finding extrinsic material for legislation. I've navigated to the legislation page and then to the bills and extrinsic material subpage. So when an act is introduced into Parliament, it is known as a bill. And as that bill passes through Parliament to become law, various documents are created, and they are known as extrinsic material. These documents include the explanatory memorandum, which explains the purpose of the legislation in detail, including clause-by-clause annotations, and the Hansard. Hansard is the transcript or the record of parliamentary proceedings, and one type of Hansard is second reading speeches. These are the speeches that the minister responsible for a bill makes when it is first introduced. Following the initial second reading speech by the minister is the second reading debate. All of this extrinsic material helps interpret legislation as it outlines the government's intention, and courts will rely upon extrinsic legislative documents when making their decisions. You can find extrinsic information in most of the legal databases, and sometimes this is a convenient and quick source of information. However, the legal databases do not always include comprehensive information about bills, so I recommend using the parliamentary websites. These will provide the most authoritative and comprehensive information. To look at a Commonwealth bill, open the link to the Parliament of Australia. Click on Bills from the homepage, and then we have a fairly simple search box. I'm going to search for bills relating to the Australian Consumer Law. So I've just typed Australian Consumer Law inside double quote marks into the keywords box. For this search, I'll leave bill titles only ticked. If you wanted to also search for your keywords in the summary information and other related information about the bill, you can untick that box. Next, it is very important to click More Options. This is because the default search on the Parliament website is for bills before the current Parliament. So I need to change the date range from current Parliament to a particular date range, or you can choose none if you just want to leave that open. And if you are looking for older bills that may have now passed into law, you also need to tick Royal Assent under the previous bills heading. I'll click a bill title to view the bill's homepage. Here I have a very brief summary of the bill. On the left-hand side is the bill's progress through Parliament, including the dates it passed the various houses and when different amendments were agreed to. On the right-hand side are links to all the original documents, including the bill as it was first introduced to Parliament and as it was finally passed. I have the explanatory memorandum. So here is the explanatory memorandum, which is a very lengthy, detailed explanation of the clauses of this bill. I have links to all of the second reading speeches or just to the Minister's second reading speech. Underneath that, this particular bill had proposed amendments from other members of Parliament, so I can view the text of those amendments here. There's a link to a schedule of the amendments, the Bill Digest, which is again a summary of the bill, and at the very bottom are some notes, including a reference to a committee report, which would be another valuable document to look at. Sometimes the committee reports will be hyperlinked. If it is not hyperlinked, you can browse to the committee report using the links at the top of the page.